Hi everybody. I thought I'd do a video. I'm certainly feeling hypersensitive and figured a lot of you are too, since we are all interconnected in the quantum field and we are approaching a supermoon in the most sensitive of signs, which is Pisces. Pisces is the third and final water sign, and it's also the final of the 12 signs of the zodiac wheel. So this is a time of completions, endings, and really having to live through our karma. Okay, so what's our karma? The law of cause and effect. So whatever we've put into motion, often unconsciously with our subconscious thoughts and fears. In other words, being mindful of what the Native American tradition is called rabbit medicine, unconsciously calling our fears to us by focusing on them, worrying about them, speaking about them incessantly. So this is about taking responsibility for what we are manifesting as the mystic, because Pisces evokes the mystic archetype, which is the feminine aspect that governs the third eye. If we imagine like a miner's light, that beacon that helps us to navigate the chaos of these transition times, of the darkness. So this can be a time when we are unwittingly projecting onto our external world our worst nightmare and then living it out. We also have this approaching full moon. It's going to be conjunct Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of restriction. So you may feel as if the world is against you, things aren't going your way, and just want to throw in your chips, and this can really evoke the victim and the martyr, which are the shadow aspects of Pisces. So ultimately, Saturn asks us to take responsibility. And we can start by taking responsibility for our sensitivities. In other words, we are going to feel more sensitive. I know I've certainly felt like a cat on a hot tin roof energetically, and really been resistant to being in the digital space, being online because of that sensitivity. But, had time-sensitive tasks that needed to be done, like so many of us, since we're so sort of interwoven with the digital world these days. So it's about really upping our self-care so that, we're only online for what we absolutely have to do, and then we get off and make sure that we get enough sleep, because Pisces asks us to really make the most of our time in the dreaming, which is when we do the deep processing work of our soul. So it was said in the Native American tradition never to wake a seer, that if you rip someone out of the dream time with an alarm going off, it's actually really detrimental to the psyche, because we're often mid-process. So if you can, don't stay up burning the midnight oil, so that you can wake up naturally before the alarm and allow yourself that time to doze, to go back and forth between the waking and the dream time, so that you can be processing, accessing downloads, insights intuitively from your higher mind. And Pisces also evokes, I said about the mystic, but she is the one who was said to wake us up in the middle of the night to important dream messages. So a nightmare was the goddess Hecate, or you might know her as Caredwin or Hel, but the crone goddess, the grandmother goddess, the goddess who is, she can look scary because she's, so old, that she reminds us of our mortality, of death. And she was said to ride the nightmare, the horse, through our dreams, thundering through and waking us up to what it is that we're missing, that is sabotaging us. So this is a time for making the space for reflection and for doing dream analysis. if we're not doing that, we're probably going to want to hide out in fantasy, which is the shadow of Pisces, reading fantasy novels or escaping into films or virtual realities, rather than actually facing up to what it is that we need to deal with in our lives that's challenging. But, this is also a sign to, or rather a flag to, honor our sensitivity emotionally, on the understanding that the more that we allow ourselves to feel, the more we can better communicate what it is we need, so that we don't just react emotionally. So this is a time that calls upon the mature feminine in all of us to be emotionally intelligent. Now, the sun moved into Virgo August 23, so this is the sign of health and work. Don't overwork. Do take care of niggly things, that how your body's talking to you at the moment, and exercise discernment. In other words, we're going to be more attuned to what's healthy and what doesn't feel so healthy. It's a time for recognizing where we need to set boundaries so that we're not in toxic relationships, we're not dependent on toxic substances because we're not honoring our needs through setting healthy boundaries. So we could feel a little bit oversensitive to perceived judgments, because this is the sign of, perfectionism and criticism. So, we always have the sun and the moon in opposite signs at full moon. And so this axis that we're journeying this full moon is sun and Virgo, the priestess opposite the mystic. So we've got hypersensitivity opposite, the tendency to push ourselves hard and overwork, and that affect our health. So, you can see how we really need to pull back on the work front to caretake our sensitivities so that, our health isn't impacted and our relationships aren't impacted. We also have Mercury retrograde until September 14, went retrograde on the 23rd, the day the sun moved into Virgo. So a time for extra care with how we communicate, and looking at, whether or not we're able to give constructive feedback or healthy feedback without being overly critical of others, and also, whether or not we can receive feedback without being hypercritical as a defense. So it is a very challenging time for relationships with Mercury retrograde and Venus still in the underworld until September 4. She's retrograde. So particularly relationships with women are more challenging at the moment, because let's face it, the Venusian half of the planet right now are digging deep into their wounds. So this full moon is really going to bring up how our karmic wounds are impacting us, and we can perhaps feel a bit more quick to fear, paranoia, just fears around safety. So this is a time when we are more easily triggered the closer we get to this full moon, which will be exact at 2:35 in the morning London time, August 31st, 11:35 Sydney time in Australia, and 6:35 p.m. on Wednesday, August 30 in LA. So anyone who's menstruating over this time, you're going to feel more, deep than usual, with Venus retrograde and Pisces being, the deepest of signs. It takes us into the void, into the chaos. So you might feel like nothing is structured. All your plans are dissolving into the soup of chaos. But it is a time of things coming full circle. So it's really important that we acknowledge the endings that need to happen for a new cycle to begin, for us to grieve as a path to acceptance, but not fixate on our fears. So I hope that's helpful, and wish you, a graceful blue moon. It is a blue moon, the second full moon within a calendar month. So yeah, take care of you and get enough sleep and do what you need to do for yourself, knowing that that really is the greatest contribution we can make to the collective. Ciao for now. You have my blessing to share this, and thanks for watching.